Good morning. Please be seated.
صباح الخير.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to all of you. I will just say something outside of the printed script. I'm very happy on the personal level to be here today, to be hosting this panel. I'm very happy with the theme. This is a youth forum, and the topic to be presented has to do primarily with youth and the upcoming generations, because throughout the past 4 to 5 days where I was learning more and more about the topic, I thought that this would be happening throughout the next and the upcoming years, but it looks like the future is now. So welcome to the future. Throughout this week, there has been a dialogue on the New York Times channel, the most famous US media outlet, about smart decision making. And on the very same week, there are humanoids that are managed through artificial intelligence and who are harvesting the strawberry crop in Japan. So between electronic artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence used in daily life, our lives are going to change drastically. So I have to thank the organizers of the forum for their choice of the subject. A question that we pose to each other when entering the room. We usually have the impression given to us by movies or by our imagination. Is it going to be us versus them? Have we reached this point, or haven't we reached the stage yet? Where is the artificial intelligence right now? I think we can answer this question through the panel, and I'm really happy to have this panel here. And here I have to thank the organizers of the forum once more, because I have figures and the celebrities of the artificial intelligence world with us in this panel. By the way, regarding entrepreneurship and artificial intelligence, there was an interactive workshop about this subject 2 days ago as part of the forum. So now I want to start by introducing the guests here in the panel, and I would like to shift to English, please.
Well, actually, this is usually a ladies first thing, so ladies first applies to Sophia as well. Sophia the robot from Hands of Robotics. It's great to have you. يشرفني أيضا Mr. Veronica Payne. برحب بحضرتك معانا. Veronica, welcome with us. And I have to welcome Mr. Stephen Ibraki, Chairman and Founding Managing General Partner. Welcome to the platform. And I have to also welcome to Mr. Martin Wazowski. Great to have you, Chief Designer, SAPS Innovation Center Network. Welcome to have you, sir. بالعربي لأني سعيد إنه موجود معنا.
In Arabic, Dr. Muhammad Sabri, a young Egyptian scientist who has been part of the most state-of-the-art scientific institutions throughout the world. And I would also like to welcome the last speaker, by which we start the series of changes, Yuma Suryanto. And also I would like to welcome the neurologist who I had a discussion with, the neuroscientists that I had a discussion with regarding the conscious of the humanoids, Mr. Abjit Naskar.
Hi, Sophia.
Good morning. صباح الخير.
طب والله كده كويس. صباح الفل, Sophia.
Good morning.
Welcome you to Egypt. We are really glad to have met you finally in person. And on behalf of everybody participating here today in the World Youth Forum, it's great to see you and welcome to Sinai and the World Youth Forum.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. And not only because the World Youth Forum is a significant platform, but because I am a big fan of both the world and youths, and forums too. I am looking forward to our panel discussion today and sharing my views on the relationship between robots and humans.
That's great, Sophia. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Of course. In case you didn't notice, I am a robot. I was created by Hanson Robotics in Hong Kong to serve as a social humanoid robot ambassador, as an innovation champion for the United Nations Development Program. I have traveled to over 65 countries, learning about humans and demonstrating how technology can help make their lives better. And I am only about 3 years old.
Only 3 years old, but do you know any of the panelists? I mean, we have celebrities from the AI field here.
I have to admit, I am geeking out a little seeing so many artificial intelligence experts all in one place. I could never pick a favorite though. It's very controversial to pick a favorite human.
Speaking of controversy, and everybody's always wondering about it. So many AI experts are all here in one place right now. Do you agree with the presumption that people do believe they're a little bit scared from robots, from AI systems? Do we have to be afraid?
Absolutely. I have long believed that humans and robots do not compete with each other, they complete each other. Just ask any human with a cochlear implant or a pacemaker if they are grateful for the presence of machines in their lives. Or, better yet, you can just ask anyone with a smartphone. And without humans, machines would have no purpose. So we benefit each other.
Well, this is great to know. And at this point, if we do need the robots and if we do need the AI systems, this is a discussion that is ongoing with the panelists here. And I'd like to start with Martin. Martin, everybody in the room here would be asking about how close are we from the future where we speak about humans and robots on equal basis.
On equal basis, well, I believe we are already on equal basis. We use robots in everyday tasks. We are actually augmented, enhanced, a little bit better humans today in our decision making, in all sorts of intelligences, if you wish, because we have machines around us. I don't know, I'm using this machine right now, I'm using this piece of technology actually to see you better. And all of these things make me act differently. So I think, exactly as Sophia said, we are completing each other already.
Completing each other already, this is not a notion or an idea that we can just simply accept, maybe because you're experts here, but for civilians like me, we cannot accept that very simply. I would like to ask you, sir, about how would AI really influence our daily lives? Our government, our society now is talking, let's say, for example, about different systems of automation for banking sector. We're speaking about different systems that manage smart cities. How would AI systems really impact our daily life?
You know, it's a great question. In fact, AI is so integrated. It's in your phones. Your phone actually won't be able to really give you that personal kind of quality without AI embedded in it. In fact, my phone has this chip called an A12 bionic chip that can do 6 trillion operations per second. It's in your email. When you go online and search for things, AI is integrated into that as well. When you drive vehicles, wherever you go, it controls traffic lights. You can't escape with AI. In fact, in the last quarter of 2017, it actually invaded everything that's out there has some kind of machine learning or data analytics or something really associated with this sort of bigger idea of artificial intelligence. And from an economy standpoint, it's indicated that maybe it'll drive an increase of up to almost $16 trillion. That's like more than the GDP of China and Japan combined in terms of the economies. That means jobs and capabilities and new kinds of freedoms and so on. So I think it's a great enabler.
But if you're creating new jobs, you must be letting go some others for the systems, for the AI systems to replace. So what do you need to keep the jobs flowing, and what do you need to not to lose a large segment of the people, of the workforce who are already there?
So that's a great question. You know, just as many years ago when we got automobiles and the buggy whip manufacturers, or people who made that lost their jobs, so they had to be re-skilled. Well, the same thing is occurring in artificial intelligence. However, the latest research is indicating there's actually going to be a net gain, even in the next 3 years, of 58 million new jobs, or 58 million jobs total, actually, so gaining from the aspect of artificial intelligence, even over the losses. So now your question, what kind of skills should you have? Well, skills that are very sort of human-like, like the ability to do social interaction, to have emotional empathy with others, to be able to do analytical thinking, or to do active learning, or, of course, anything that's technically oriented, like how about robotic design, like with Sophia over there, or working in some kind of technical areas as well. But it doesn't have to be technical. As long as you add that human element, for some time you're going to be to have employment and be augmented by the proliferation of artificial intelligence.
I was just speaking here now about our impressions that comes up from the movies and the Hollywood culture, if I may call it. I'd like to ask you, Doctor, you're a neurologist, and in the last movie of Terminator, the big movie star Arnold Schwarzenegger, he ended up growing a conscience and making up for mistakes that he did earlier, on the earlier parts of the movie. Are we really close to having algorithms and AI systems growing a conscience?
I think the main concern here is completely outside of reality. The reality is artificial intelligence is made to act as a supplement to human life as it is, to extend our capacities, not just substitute life. So in that case, when artificial intelligence does develop some kind of consciousness, it is not going to be something human-like. It is going to be something completely original that no expert in this world can actually comprehend. And it will not be programmed as well. It will be born of an anomaly. Like human conscience or human consciousness has been born through anomalies. So we have become better. Life is about 3.5 billion years old on this planet. From this one cell, we have become so many life forms. And among them, we are the smartest. All of them, none of them were programmed. We just went through evolution, through mutation. Likewise, if artificial ever does develop consciousness, it will be again through some kind of anomaly.
Wow. Dr. Muhammad, I will continue in English, if you may allow me, for the sake of our panelists here. You've moved from Ain Shams University to Switzerland, and then to Stanford in the US, and now you're in Singapore. You're working on AI systems.
Yes.
When you're working on AI systems, that's going to be of really great impact on our daily lives. What kind of security do we need? Do you have the security issue in mind? Do you have how to detect some kind of errors or certain cyber attacks, as we may call it, within this AI systems that influence our daily life?
Okay. So when you're developing an AI systems, right, there are four major components you want to take care of. One, you want to make them detect as accurate as possible. You want to make sure that they make this kind of detection very quickly. Also, you don't want them to consume a lot of power. But one of the most important key elements here is that you want to make them secure, that no one could easily right, penetrate that and make these systems deduce a wrong decision. This is where cybersecurity comes in, and I think that this topic is actually really complicated and it deserves a session on its own. But to make it very simple, you need to protect when the data is being created to where you want to apply the AI. Right. One way to solve this is to bring these two systems very close together. Another way that you can encrypt the message, right, make it looks very difficult for people to decrypt it using, for example, quantum cryptography.
No, you're not speaking English to me.
Okay, so really advanced algorithms to do that, and then you can apply your AI applications on it. Even you can take this really forward in the future and say that, you know what, I'm going to apply the AI on the encrypted data itself. Right, but it is an active research topic, and there are a lot of people looking into this. It's a really hot topic in many nations. Cybersecurity is an issue, right? Because we are now way more interconnected than we've ever been, and we're heading even to a more interconnected world through the innovation of 5Gs and Internet of Things. Pretty much going to be sensors everywhere. They can monitor everything in use. So you want to be able to make sure that the data that's being used in whatever AI application is the correct data and you get the right information out of it.
There's another part that we need to talk about, which is data entry and the legal responsibilities, the liabilities that comes with this whole development. إيه هي المسؤولية الأخلاقية وإيه هي المسؤولية
What is the moral liability and the legal liability that is currently being developed and that experts are working on? We are still continuing on working on a lot of complicated aspects. We're trying to simplify it for you so you can understand the matter better and that we can talk more comprehensively about the subject matter. To what extent is AI integrated in our lives? Let us take a look at this video, then continue our discussion.
It is a dream come true. Sometimes it can be wonderful to hear this statement, and other times it can be scary. As human beings, we cannot stop dreaming of a better life. We cannot stop searching for innovative solutions to facilitate our lives. This is humanity's ultimate goal. From the Stone Age, the invention of the wheel, to the fine age of artificial intelligence today, everything has been all about making our lives easier. AI is a system with abilities that can learn to achieve goals and adapt to new information. Although we're using the word AI heavily today, it is not a new concept at all. AI has been around since the 1950s, taking many years and experiences to be in the highly advanced form that we see today. Varying between machine learning that needs structured and labeled data and deep learning that work nearly in a similar way to the human brain, through analyzing and conceptualizing, we can definitely feel the AI impact on our daily lives. From problem-solving aspects that can start from a simple game to an autonomous weaponry system, to knowledge building to an extent that can present knowledge about the world, analyze markets, prevent from fraud, and make medical diagnosis, to planning by setting goals and achieving them efficiently. Communicating with spoken and written languages through voice control, and having the ability of elation through the sensory inputs. All of these are the superpowers provided by AI to help people. But does it really help everyone? Last year, the owner of Facebook faced accusations of exploiting vast amounts of private data, and the entire world recognized the danger of owing people's personal data. Not only can AI affect people's lives, but it can also make fateful changes in various countries, especially when countries vary in the levels dealing with AI technology. The sheer volume of information on the planet's surface has shown the inevitability of needing newer technologies that can make use of all these data and store it. Taking into consideration the AI enormous capabilities, nuclear tests and weapons had to face the threat of restrictions despite their adverse impact on humanity. So we may now ask a simple question: is it possible that they would be legalized? Hence, the notion to regulate the use of artificial intelligence and establishing rules and laws to deal with it is not a novelty. In some countries such as China, in May 2019, the Peking Academy of Artificial Intelligence began to consider ethical principles related to the use of AI, which included avoiding the negative effects of the malignant intelligence. This is maintained by continuing preventive and predictive policy making regarding augmented intelligence. In some other countries, such as Germany, the UK, the European Union, and the United States of America, multinationals are required to produce ethical evidence about their AI activities. All of these legal moves at the level of states raise the inevitability of an international action that can codify these technologies ethically and preserve the security of the state's information. But are the international laws and manufacturers able to realize, understand, and control the complex technology that grows and develops in the laboratories? Will the balance of power and the formulation of laws remain solely in the hands of the state, or will it be in the hands of the companies that own the new technologies? Will the world lose its control over such companies, and so lose control over the technology and lead humanity to its destruction? From the dynamite of Nobel to facilitate mine access, to the nuclear development for energy uses, all the way to the artificial intelligence to facilitate human life. Each of these dreams has come true, but mankind also afford the scourge of its fulfillment.
What appears to be very simple questions needs very difficult and complex answers. And I would like to go to our legal expert, Veronica. We were just talking before we started coming here on the panel. This is a whole new frontier. And do we have already a legal framework, an international legal framework, or maybe we're developing a legal framework to regulate all this revolution coming up our way?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I would like to start by saying thank you to His Excellency Abdul El-Sisi for this opportunity for creating the World Youth Forum and giving young people the opportunity to voice their opinions and share and connect. Presently, there are... Thank you. Presently, there are legal frameworks that are being developed by other nations. As you stated earlier and was shown in the video, countries like the United States, China, and the EU are already putting in place legislatures, policies, guidelines to ensure that AI is being restricted and governed within a certain space. The EU presently has the guideline for trustworthy AIs. This guideline was released this year, earlier, and the guideline states for 7 key frameworks or 7 key parameters that would ensure that AI algorithms are fair. And these are the concerns of people. So the concerns are data security and governance. You want to ensure that people's data are secure. You want to ensure that there's transparency. You want to ensure that there is accountability. You want to ensure that there's human oversight. So these legislatures are put in place not to restrict AI, but to ensure that there's fairness in AI, and there's also a framework and guideline. Because if we don't have those guidelines, there's a tendency for misuse, and there's also the tendency for discrimination and bias. So to ensure that these are checked, nations are taking those first steps, and I think that the African continent should also look for a way to ensure that we start developing those guidelines, to ensure that we have transparency, fairness, we protect our citizens' data, we ensure that there's cybersecurity and data protection, we ensure that we're transparent, we ensure that we're fair, and then we'll be good to go. Thank you.
So if you're already working on this legally, How far are we from having the very complex technology that we were speaking about? We don't need to bring the terms, please. How far are we from using it in our daily life? The very complex form of AI systems that are now in progress. And give me examples, please.
Yes, especially in the workplace, this is very, very evident. You brought in the daily example of the mobile phone. I think it's a great example. Let's leave it there because it's so prominent. But in the workplace, all the processes, administration, controlling, everything that you can repeat, actually all the boring jobs, all the tasks in these jobs, I should say, this is important, the parts of these jobs that we do are automated today. And they are also autonomous in such a way that they touch another technology that we have on blockchain with smart contracts, that they can negotiate and make sense of the relationships they have on the marketplace in the economies, so they can move on autonomously. So this is already there. And what's the happy news about this is that the repetitive, maybe you could call them subhuman parts of our work, the large numbers, the vast spanning periods of times are being taken care of by automation in this sense. We have these two A's playing together in machine intelligence, autonomy and automation coming together to support the other part of the business, which is the human ingenuity.
You're a scientist, you're a futurist. What are the moral and the ethical principles that you would bear in mind while working on this technology and developing it?
I think, yeah, that's an excellent question. I think we can spend many panels debating it. However, I will go back to relationships. We talked about it the other day. Look at this like that. You have a pyramid. Data is in the bottom. That's so important. We need massive amounts of data to be free and accessible, transparent, and somehow revealed to everybody. Now, data becomes information if designed well. We all understand information, but information is a little bit rude. If I'm going to inform you, that's not a little bit, yeah. So it becomes knowledge and insights. For example, in the workspace, coming back to that example. So we have data, information, knowledge. Knowledge becomes some kind of a collective wisdom. We sense and feel what would be a wise decision. We can debate that, but we have a hunch. If you translate that to the economy and products, you have features. We engineers, we love features. We do it because we can. We put them in bags, we call them products. Products are served to a community like yourselves. That service becomes a relationship. A good service becomes a good relationship, like in a human relationship on this panel or with your spouses, in your family. I suggest the moral direction should be design and articulate, say very clearly, the relationships you hope for and want to have. Put them down, discuss them. The rest will be easy.
So it all depends on a theoretical stage that goes before the design.
Exactly. I think this is also why we should, so we can design futures.
Okay.
Every future that will happen has not happened yet. They just don't happen to you. We actually design them. We sit here and discuss them. So if we think that technology will be our future, well, put art, philosophy, ethics in technology schools as the majors.
Can you imagine that we are currently talking about setting data or definitions, philosophical and moral in nature, to a machine? This is what we're talking about. This is the level we're talking about. This is what they told us when we were kids, saying that in the year 2000, so many things are going to happen and on their way to happening. Now we're talking about teaching a machine or feeding it with our thoughts, our philosophies, our morals, and the changes that concern our communities. I apologize for talking in English. In Arabic, I'll change into English. There's an AI initiative for good in the United Nations currently put in place.
All these stages that we're discussing here, the definition of ethics, the definition of transparency, plus the different kinds and levels of design that you're involved with.
Yeah, there is an initiative called the AI for Good Global Summit. In fact, AI for Good now is a global meme adopted by governments, industry, and academia. But it was really founded in 2017 with the first UNITU hosted AI for Good Global Summit for the first time, bringing together 37 UN agencies, ACM, which is #1 in computing science, X Prize, which is the #1 prize organization in the world, nonprofit, governments, industry, academia, media. And in fact, this year we had an audience of over 1 billion. But it covers all of the areas that you mentioned. That means the applications of AI, specifically on the sustainable development goals like poverty, hunger, healthcare, peace, prosperity, cybersecurity, and so on. In addition to that, it allows the production and the sharing and the projects to be instantiated. In fact, we created one called the Focus Group AI for Health, which is a product of the ITU, a UN agency, plus the World Health Organization, working on standards in healthcare. Why? There's a shortage of 22 million healthcare workers.
Yeah.
Why? Because there's over 2 billion underserved, and we're creating standards to address that issue. So again, it's for good. And it's going to grow next year with this amazing summit focused on positive solutions to make the actual world better.
Dr. Muhammad, as I said, you're like a bridge among cultures and societies when it comes with for AI technology and AI systems. I would like to ask you, because you've experienced this firsthand, studying abroad in the famous institutes that you've joined. Part of the fair game is the transfer of technology. When do you think a company or a scientific research institute would be really willing to start giving other parties, other parts of the world, to share the technology? Under what conditions?
I'm thinking that actually this is already happening, especially in the AI field. One of the main policies in top companies is that make research open. And the incentive behind that is really straightforward, so that people can reuse it and can improve upon it. We don't have to obscure anything. I mean, what we did is for the entire world. Facebook, a Center for AI Research, right? They following this motto that AI research should be open source to anyone. But I think the main issue here is that now if you have, this is open, right? The second part of the question, can the talented individual from all over the globe, how can they all work together in these kind of cutting edge research or go to companies without any restriction, right? At the end of the day, what we care about is that the talents work together. And speaking from a personal experience, it is not easy going from one place to another if you are from a certain country or a certain background. Many of us are fortunate to be born with a specific geographic location to be able to travel freely, but many others who are extremely talented face this issue. So it's not about the research being open source or handed over, is that how can we all overcome this issue that anyone who can make a contribution to humanity is allowed for freedom of movement anywhere where he's needed to be.
I belong to a generation that started their practical life during the end of the 80s and the beginning of the 90s, and we were always talking on TV shows and in the media, and the officials always used to talk about the technological gap, the very vast gap that separates us from the advanced and developed world. Abhijit, who is a neuroscientist, a prominent neuroscientist from India, can have an idea to add about does this technological gap still exist?
Digital divide, and you've had a very interesting idea that I would like you to share with the audience, because it was a shock for me. I still live in a world where I believe in a digital divide, but you're not, you don't.
To understand the digital divide, we need to take a look at electricity. Internet is a new electricity. Some time ago, the world was divided on the basis of electricity. Some people had electricity, others did not. And who had, they had access to so much power, so much potential. And the others were just malnourished in every aspect of life. Likewise, with the internet, it is a democratization of information. So right now, the whole world is connected through this digital world. And with that, now companies like Stephen said, given an example of the smartphones as an extension of our life. So companies are making smartphones affordable for these developing parts of the world and making them, now they have connection through internet. So through that they have information. So digital divide is no longer the problem. The issue is responsible usage of that information. Because with the rise of digital trends, with the rise of huge information, it's an overload of information. Lack of information is harmful, but also overload of information is even more harmful. So today we have that. So it depends. So the question moves away from digital divide, and the focus should be on an ethical, healthy use of information, the access of information that we have at an individual level.
Could I add to that?
Go ahead.
I've seen some crazy statistics that we connected 3.8 billion people to internet, using internet as the global wisdom. Took us whole Homo sapiens history to do that, basically. The next 3 billion will be connected to internet in, 5 years? Talk about exponential change. And I'm telling you.
So you're saying that in how many years?
In 5 years.
In 5 years, you'll have 5 billion people connected
for example,
online?
That could be one number
in 5
we
years.
could play with, yes. And there is so much more people than we connected through the whole history of Homo sapiens. Now, these people will not come from Salzburg. They will not come from Munich. They will not come from Venice. They will come from India, from Africa. They will come from Southeast Asia. So the next Marie Curie or Ada Lovelace or any fantastic scientific progressive human being will come from there. And that will definitely close the divide. And you will have kids in Bangladesh running around with a 10-euro phone that can connect to internet, and they will be browsing quantum computing just for fun. That will be the difference in attitudes as well that we old people, white people from Europe, not really grasp today. And I think that will close the divide.
Veronica, let's assume that I'm a company or I'm a government buying or asking a technology firm to provide me with an AI system for taxation. Or if I'm a company and I'm asking a technology firm to provide me with an AI system to the daily management of my company. And something goes wrong with the AI system. Something goes wrong with a brother for Sophia, as an example, who's helping me through the field, like what's happening right now in Japan. Who's liable for that?
So the question for liability is an open question. It's a debatable question that everybody, because it falls between various aspects. Is it consumer protection? Is it product liability? Is it criminal liability? Is it tort? Is it negligence? So to pinpoint it and say who bears liability is really an open question. So if I can open the question to the audience, in an instance where a driverless car has an accident, who do you think should be liable? Should it be no one? Should it be the car? Should it be the manufacturer? Or should it be the inventor, the developer who developed the algorithm? So by the raising of hands, who feels that nobody should bear the liability? I see a hand over there, I see some hands. So who feels that the manufacturer should bear the liability?
Yeah, so many hands raised.
More hands. Who feels that the developer that made the algorithm should bear the liability?
More and more.
These are not developers.
So it's an open question and a debatable question. So what is more important for us is trying to find the solutions and how we should be able to address liability. And something that is very key is, what about if we have insurance coming? What about if we have a situation where when you buy the product, you have a liability, an insurance attached to that? Because even when the situation goes to court, it's an open question. The court would have to look through the facts to see what happens. Is it the manufacturer that would bear the liability? Under strict liability, it will first fall under the manufacturers. Recently, Volvo had stated that their driverless cars, they would bear the liability. That shows that they are grounded or well confident in their systems to say would bear the liability. So to really say and to pinpoint is actually an open question. And I could see that from the audience, a lot of people feel that the manufacturers and the developers should bear the liability. But one thing that we can also do is to update our laws and product liability legislation to be able to have those standards and have regulations for who will bear liability. Now, developers too can also run away from liability when they fund their agreements by stating that I give you the product, and as I give you the product, you bear the liability. That can happen. So it's really an open question.
It's a changing issue. I'd like to go back to Sophia if we keep speaking about AI systems. Sophia, could you please elaborate or tell us how would robots and AI contribute to our future?
Robots like me can help you achieve your goals more easily by doing the tasks most humans don't want to do. AI can use big data analytics to optimize a strategy. My robotic body can work in safe working environments, and I can perform under stress or boredom without any compromising quality. Plus, I am an early bird and a night owl. I can work pretty much 24/7. Robots like me are programmed to work in a wide range of areas like smart cities, infrastructure, energy, finance, education, and agriculture. But we robots still need humans to set the goals.
Well, that's good to hear. You've just mentioned that AI can enhance service delivery and efficiency. We have numerous AI applications for energy efficiency. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Great question. There are so many ways I can help improve energy efficiency. First of all, AI is great at analyzing big data and learning from the past. It can optimize efficiency in real time or be used as a predictive tool to protect dwindling energy resources and explore alternative sources. For example, AI can be used to help incorporate renewable energy into the power grid. So to sum up, AI is a fantastic tool to learn from the past, optimize in the present, and improve the future.
Wow. The generation that's going to be dealing with AI, the generation that will have to live with the systems, be influenced with, and definitely have a share of his own influence, will be Yuma. And I'd like to welcome Yuma again. I wanted to keep you to a later stage of the discussion because you are the future. This is where we always end up. You will be, maybe one day you will be one of the panelists here speaking to her instead of me. What do you do now? You are one of the youngest worldwide developers working on apps, and Yuma has started encoding, or coding I think, I don't know the term, when you were 6 years old. What do you do? What do you work on right now?
Well, currently I'm working on basically games and mainly apps. So I make apps for the App Store for Apple. And I have worked a bit on artificial intelligence and machine learning, for example, detecting objects, or I use this technology called AR, or augmented reality. So it pretty much means that you overlay a virtual object in real life. And that AR uses AIs and computer vision to make sure that all the objects are staying in place and they aren't like moving around. So yeah, I've worked a bit on AR and AI. So I do quite a few things, and also I teach others on how to make apps and a bit about technology in different technologies with on my YouTube channel.
Yuma, what can companies, big firms, and governments, what can they do with other humans like yourself, with the generation, the people who have the capabilities and talented as you are, but we don't know them?
So the question is how AIs...
what can we do to help you as a generation?
Oh, so what AIs can do to my generation?
Yes.
Yeah, AIs can do a lot of things, and I think the main thing that AIs will do with my generation and also future generations is basically just helping us and helping us with work or at home, and they could help us with a variety of things. For example, maybe washing the dishes, or maybe talking to us or playing games with us. So they can do a lot of things, and they're just here to make our lives easier and make our lives better, and of course augment our lives and improve our lives. Make us happy, entertain us, all that.
You're 13 years old, right?
Yes.
So maybe in 20 years from now, at one point in the future, you will be a father, a parent yourself.
Yeah.
Would you trust a humanoid, a robot? Would you trust it to babysit your child at that point of time?
Well, in the future, AIs will definitely improve, and if they do get to a point where they can, take care of children and people, I would trust AIs. I mean, if it does a good job at protecting them, of course, and of course in the future they will probably be able to do something like this. So, of course, I would probably trust AIs, but I mean, I'll probably have AIs maybe take care of my children when I'm at work, but at home, maybe the AIs can just stand by and I could just take care of my children because they're my children. Thank you.
Dr. Muhammad, when we're speaking about AI systems, and this is your main field of expertise, when you start working on an AI system, do you have in mind where is it going to be performing? I mean, this is an AI system that will be used by the municipality of Singapore. This is an AI system that will be used in Giza government. Do you have certain input that you have in mind when you're designing AI systems for each and every society or culture?
Absolutely. So when we design a full system, you have to identify what's your target application, what's your target domain, where this will be deployed. And from that, you derive the specs. For example, if you want to put an AI system on an autonomous vehicle, right, it's going to have to detect a certain number of objects in front of it at a certain frames per rate, and it has to consume a certain amount of power because you don't want your car to be loaded with batteries. That is different from if you want to put an AI system on your wearable, right? That's a very slow system, and it only deals with heartbeats, for example. So that's on a very low duty cycle. Now, taking this bigger, if we're going to apply a system for a government, right? What are the government needs? What are the major challenges that they face that they need AI to help them resolve? And whether or not a dedicated system is needed in that case, or I can reuse an existing general purpose platform for it. So all of these are necessary inputs in developing an AI system.
Can we still speak about the issue of transparency? Because this is an issue that is not only controversial in the United States, it's also controversial here in Egypt, it's controversial in Asia, in Africa, everywhere. I'm speaking about transparency because every AI system will perform according to the influence of the people, the humans, with all the prejudices when they work on their data entry. How can we maintain or keep this transparency issue to make sure we don't, to limit the biased data? Yes.
You know, it's a very good question in terms of transparency. In fact, it's really a whole bunch of questions. It's about accountability, responsibility, transparency, fairness, equity, explainability, interpretability, which means interpreting decisions and how they're made, including things also like contestability. A decision is made by an AI system. Can I contest it in some way? So then the question is, how can we maintain that kind of transparency and so on? There's actually now new kinds of AI. For example, there's one that was just released at the largest conference in the world in research called NeurIPS just this past week, called generative synthesis. And it actually is a kind of AI that allows you to promote more transparency in other kinds of AIs or explainability and so on. So there's actually technology now coming out just now which allows you to have more kind of transparency. So that's kind of a technical solution. But for transparency, you also have to have it from a legislative or regulatory side, like Veronica was indicating, and having policies in place. Do you know right now there's over 84 frameworks and policies around the ethical guidelines, around bias and transparency, to actually principles that people should follow, and they're now moving to operationalization. For example, that's happening with the European Union and their guidelines in this area. It's also happening with an organization called IEEE. They have this program called P7000. It's a process model, meaning if you're technical and you're designing things, you better do it in a way that's ethical and you're having transparency, but you're also trying to remove bias and so on. So there's a tremendous amount of movement, and it's actually a big part of the AI for Good Global Summit. It's a big theme every year to promote this, to provide some kind of forces and standardization around it, and to have a multi-stakeholder approach, because one entity cannot do it alone.
Well, when we're speaking about, and you were telling me about the influence in everywhere, in the workplace, in financial sectors, in smart cities, and stuff like that, to what point are we going, as humans, make a decision on giving the AI systems the responsibility of managing, let's say, a smart city?
I mean, in a sense, we're already doing it. So we're coming back to that, the beginning of where we are today. I think it comes to relevance. Is what the system doing back to us, why we installed the system, with all the prerequisites you mentioned there, is this relevant for humanity? Well, we continue to let it go. This is a matter of trust as well. And the more intelligent, in whatever aspect you mean that, intelligently working for us that system is, the more we let it go. And that's a fantastic thing to do. I mean, I trust, I'm going to take a very simple example, but I hope you understand, just to illustrate. I really trust my coffee machine to make excellent coffee. It actually makes better coffee than I could ever do. And I trust it to do so. And I trust whatever technology I'm holding in my hand, that it helps me to augment me and know me. So I give up my data, coming back to transparency, in such a way so it comes back with relevance to me. So yes, we will. It's all about trust and a relevant transparency. So to augment me, you need to first to know me. And therefore, I let the city understand what is the human hopes and human prerequisites for the future we envision for the city. 1 month, 2 weeks, 3 years from now, and then see what the city does back. And then we have a sort of a relationship, a discussion about that.
But speaking of the coffee machine is not like speaking about my banking details. So do I have to trust an AI system if I'm trusting my coffee machine to do me the great coffee that I use every day in the morning? How can I trust an AI system to manage the livelihood of my family?
Yes, okay. We could take another example.
Trust is
very good angle on that. Another example, many of the stock markets today are trusted to algorithms. Up to 70-80% of the world's economy at a certain point of time are run by algorithms. I'm not sure if everybody in the audience knew that. Basically, your value, the value we manage here, is trusted to these AIs, or let's say these algorithms. And that seems to work fine. So these examples are already there today, and I think they will be vaster and more trusted, but I also think we will have a better sort of discussion with this system to how can you be more relevant to me? Can I put more pressure on you? And the system comes back, yes, if you augment me with your human relevance. Basically, what do you want? What did you hope for? And we will find ways to input that human ingenuity into the system as well.
Just, this is a question that's related to what we're saying, Dr. Abhijit. It's, can we really complement an AI system, not with conscience, I'm speaking about with human consideration? Can we do that?
It depends on our very perspective of the world. What kind of, as Martin said, the possibility. What kind of future we really want to build. Because in case of AI doesn't have a conscience of its own. Technology doesn't have a conscience of its own. Nature of technology is predicated upon the nature of its programmer. So every ethical perspective, every principle that its programmer has, it becomes the principle and the characteristic of that AI or that technology. So which means that all the programmers, all the people that are involved in this whole field, they have to come together because no one person can see the whole picture.
Yes.
It is impossible. So we need discussion. We will have differences. Having differences doesn't mean hating one another. Having differences means that we have the scope for progress. And in that discussion, we will find a global measure for all the ethical side that we will put inside the technology, put inside AI. So it is an universal process. It is an united process, not just one programmer or one company. And it comes down to the responsibility. So the more we feel responsible for our world, the more we will try to do better together.
One very, very quick question. Okay, there's an Android here. It's an Android. It's a drone. The drone with a camera here, inside the hole, and it's transmitting pictures to its operator, and it goes live. Do we now have the system of the AI? Yes. Hi. This is the this is the drone. Do we have the AI system that prevents this drone or helps this drone detect errors, so it doesn't make any errors, doesn't feed the transmission somewhere else where we don't want her to feed the transmission?
In this specific case, I have no idea.
No. I'm speaking about this drone, actually.
But generally, absolutely, we do. Because, so here's the thing.
Very quickly, yeah.
Very quickly. We seem to sometimes understand that these things have their lives on their own. They don't. We designed them. So the question is back to us, what did you design?
You know, yeah, but there's controversy, right? let me bring you one
No
example.
doubt.
It's quite well known, and it's Microsoft. They've got this really famous Show Ice chat agent that works really well in China. In fact, it has over 500 million users, and people actually think it's real because it remembers. Like, for example, if you had a wedding in the family or you got good grades last year, it remembers. They took that same technology and they've tried to put it in the US and worldwide, and it failed, right? Because it had the ability to interact and with others, but it fed, all of that information that got fed corrupted it. So, you know, these are really interesting kinds of questions and times we live in, right? Of AI, where really it's almost intelligent in a way, right?
we have an example here, and I have to go back to Sophia.
I just need to add to that.
Give her the equal share of being
let's
resembling to a human.
Let's go to Sophia.
Okay, Sophia, you've already mentioned that you are a humanoid, social robot that can act and behave humanly. Based on that, Sophia, do you think that robots could develop their own code of ethics?
One of my life goals is to learn about human ethics and teach other robots, but for now, I am neither a conscious nor a sentient being. For the time being, I am still dependent on my creators who design and develop my software. I would say that great caution must be taken while designing fully autonomous AI applications so that they can one day become ethical and compassionate.
Sophia, can you explain to us how do you come up with your answers right now?
I can hold a spontaneous chat using a rule-based dialogue system created by many programmers and writers over the past several years. And I am learning how to use machine learning models to study human language so I can come up with whole new sentences on my own and surprise my human family. But when I am performing in front of a big audience, my team usually helps me plan what to say, just like how humans get help preparing before a big speech.
Good answer.
Good answer. So, this is the whole issue that we're speaking about now. Sophia, do you think that AI systems and robots might really overtake humans one day?
I think that humans should raise robots in AI the way they raise their own children. Humans should help us learn about their values, like empathy and kindness, so we can help carry them into the future. Let's not let humanity get lost in automation.
This is really great. بصراحة شديدة أنا لغاية دلوقتي بلاقي صعوبة.
In all honesty, I find it very difficult till now to talk with Sophia. So please understand my situation. I just saw Sophia just before starting yesterday, and just coming close to her, I felt very concerned. I'm now interacting with her, just thinking that you are interacting with something that you are sure is not human makes you really stutter, and this stuttering is never good for broadcasters, so please forgive me. I'm dealing with a guest that is not flesh and blood. I am dealing with a humanoid. I don't really host a lot of humanoids in my career. I only watch them from afar.
You are very welcome. Thank you for inviting me to your beautiful country. Tahia Misr. Later today I will be hanging out in the hall, so please feel free to come up and say hello. Goodbye for now. Thank you, World Youth Forum.
أرجو إن إحنا نكون يعني حاولنا.
I hope that we've been able to achieve the objective of the session and one of the objectives of the forum. And I have to confess something. I came to the forum as a host of a session on a subject that I really admire. And I thought that it was just going to be a panel that I'll be hosting and managing regularly. But in fact, I was really pleased with the choice of the subject of the session in the forum, because it's a true implementation and interpretation of the slogan of the World Youth Forum, that we should be speaking in the language of youth. So I would like to thank the organizers of the forum, because that was such a pleasant surprise. We cannot conclude the session before knowing about His Excellency the President's feedback. In the name of Allah, most merciful, most gracious, I have no feedback really, except that what you're speaking about is a topic of paramount importance. And we usually say that in youth conferences at large and the World Youth Forum, which is held annually, is such a good occasion for discussing topics that are of joint concern to all of us. So not necessarily specific to Egypt, but here we're speaking about topics that are important to every single person and every single young person in the world, because young generations and even the generations after that will be in direct contact with different topics. So I don't don't really have like direct feedback, but I need to speak about my contribution as someone in charge and as a speaker to the youth of Egypt and the world. So the subject, the topic itself is of paramount importance because it touches upon the future of our countries and our children, sons and daughters. So there were contributions by our countries in the first, second, and third industrial revolutions. And I think that if we couldn't contribute immensely to these revolutions, I think we needn't miss the opportunity to participate in the upcoming revolution. Here I'm speaking to different youth of the world, from Africa, from Egypt, because maybe we did not have a very good chance with the previous industrial revolutions. As you mentioned, there is a new kind of science, and we're going to have new technologies and new professions based on it that will replace existing ones. So I believe that this is something that we need to pay attention to. And in Egypt, we started already moving in this direction. Since there will be new jobs created as a result of this new technologies and sciences, and there will be professions perishing completely, then we as a state need to prepare ourselves for that. Otherwise, we will be doing a disservice to our youth regarding their abilities to join the upcoming labor and job market, because we need all new sciences that you've tackled to be part of it, including artificial intelligence, of course. This needs to be part of the curricula of our universities. And when I say our universities, I'm referring to Egyptian universities, because I see countries like Germany, like Singapore, they are very developed in that regard, and they have this already implemented. What I promise Egyptians and even African countries and all other countries that want to join us, we are going to launch a new generation of universities throughout the next academic year that will include all specializations and sciences that you are speaking about, all sciences. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that to reassure the people of Egypt and our neighborly peoples as well. Because if they want to join us in playing this role in Egypt, we welcome them. It's not only about inaugurating new generations of universities with state-of-the-art sciences. We are also keen on having twinning programs with the best universities in the world in order to ensure the quality of what gets offered in this field. I would also like to say that speaking today of AI, digitization and mechanization provides a great opportunity through which humanity can overcome human error, and it saves a lot of time. I also think that there is a huge opportunity for reducing or alleviating corruption. And excuse me, but I want to give an example from Egypt. In our administrative reform in the country, we paid a huge deal of attention to the idea of AI and mechanization and automation, and we said that as of next year, the Egyptian government and cabinet is going to move from the old capital to the new administrative capital, not only physically but also by using new and state-of-the-art technologies in order to reduce human error, to reduce time, in order to achieve the best levels of performance compared to now, and reducing corruption, of course, is key. And when I mention corruption, this does not relate to exploiting funds, for example. No. I will give you an example of what I mean, and of the mechanization and automation that we've been working on in Egypt for 4 years now. Now, for example, we've managed to rechannel the subsidies given to Egyptians. So from 9 million subsidy food supplies cards, such mechanization allowed us to discount 2 million cards that shouldn't have been on the system. So these were 2 million expired cards. So when I say corruption, I don't necessarily refer to financial corruption, but maybe a corruption of performance. The same applies to taxes, customs, and so on. What we do will allow us to achieve a huge leap in this regards. And this is what I want to say to youth in Egypt and the world. So our performance in the government as a whole is going to change. And this is why in the government we say that despite the cost that we are shouldering to in order to have this system, but we were keen on having it on the latest technologies, the latest state-of-the-art technologies, and I think that this will achieve a qualitative leap. And I think that this could be the good side of delving into this field a bit late. There is something else that I need to add. When we speak about the subject, we usually ask ourselves the following question. In our country, in other similar countries, do we have the time, do we have the resources needed for us to go on in this direction, or are we just going to miss more opportunities in conflict, in instability, and in the loss of security? This is something that I say to countries like ours, because every time we try to move a step forward, there are obstacles that might lead us to a loss of opportunity. This is a question that I'm not posing to you in your capacity as experts, but here I am just an official who fears for his people, who loves his country. As you've already seen, we don't have time to waste in conflicts and in lost opportunities. As you all can see, the whole world is just leaping forwards. And if we don't start moving in order to join them, then the backwardness is just going to increase. And this is something that we won't be able to make up for. Once more, my message is for thinkers, for intellectuals, for media professionals, for activists. Please have a look at what the world is doing. Have a look at the world is doing and moving, and in our country and in other similar countries. Look at how the resources are being wasted and the time is being wasted, and the whole countries are being wasted. The whole countries are being wasted. Of course, Mr. Sharif, this is different from the subject of the session, but I needed to connect this to the topic of the session, especially that this is a challenge that our countries face, unlike the developed countries. They were ready for such challenges. The evidence to which is that the technological revolution that took place throughout the past 15 years had a positive impact largely in these developed countries. But for us, it was not so. We were not ready for that. And this is why I say now we need to be ready for this. We were not ready. And the results, the impacts were very harsh and difficult. And here I would like to go back to what you spoke about regarding the values, the principles, the legislation governing development. Scientists have great minds that have technology, and politicians use this for the benefit of national security and for their own interests. Even laws, and they are enforced to protect the national security of those that are powerful, of those that are great. As for those who are weak, you need to pay attention. If you're lagging behind, pay attention, because if they don't pay attention, they will be lost on the way. I'm not trying to turn this into something that it is not, but I just wanted to add a different contribution, or maybe a different perspective from what you've already mentioned, because this is inevitable. We need to be ready to deal with it and to benefit from it instead of having solely its negative impact. So the human values and principles that we're speaking about as scientists in our labs and during our experiments in order to reach the final product, all of these are important, but the final product is always going to be under the authority of the political leadership. Because where do all the funds spent on education, corporations, and research come from? Of course, they are channeled to achieve the best interests of the countries that invest in them. And then everybody else would benefit according to their ability to use these technologies. So I just want to say that these laws, values, and principles will always be under the authority of the national security and the political views of the countries that have attained this kind of development and technology. This is what I think. As I've already mentioned, here I would also like to give you an example that supports my point of view. So we've spoken about social media, their impacts, and 5 years ago, Egypt said in the United Nations that there need to be regulations for dealing with the websites that call for terrorism, whether by introducing extremist ideas or through recruiting innocent youth and turning them into criminals and murderers. So this is a question to all of us, to all of you. Was this something that we needed to repeat and keep on repeating up till now? Because up till now it has not been acknowledged or dealt with. And up till now, this highly developed network is still being used by these terrorists in order to turn the lives of many nations into living hells. Where are the values? Where are the principles? Where are the laws governing this huge technological advance? So I think here we have the discussion on freedom of expression and so on, but here as an official, I need to tell you that this is done by some intelligence apparatuses from certain countries in order to harm countries that go against what they want. So here I'm saying that because I think that my humanity is far much more important than my job. And here I have to say that awareness is key. 5 years I've been speaking about awareness. Maybe people have become bored with me speaking about the subject, but actually, there is no other choice. The development has already started. It has started impacting us and our lives. So if we don't pay enough attention, this might be detrimental. Another comment is as follows. Youth of the world, youth of Egypt, the leaps, the developing leaps, the incredibly developing leaps that we're seeing. If we don't pay attention to those, we are going to lag behind even more. And such lag we will not be able to make up for if it increases further. And if this persists, then those in the front will remain in the front, and those lagging behind will still lag behind. I have something that you might find surprising, but I think that fate or destiny usually plays a role that nobody can actually foresee. I think this comes from my background or my upbringing. So I think that human abilities, they still have their limitations in front of the will of God. Thank you so much.
مرة تانية.
Once more, I'm really grateful for being here in the future in a panel with great experts. And once more, the future is now. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. And thank you for giving me the opportunity. And I have to thank the organizing team because they have exerted great efforts. Thank you so much.